This is yet another MBA GOAT, a podcast featuring conversations with the greatest of all-time MBA alumni from the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. We are here to celebrate the outcomes of graduate management education and to identify remarkable examples of how the MBA program here at the Jindal School has transformed the lives of our alumni. Now, here's Lisa Shatz, Assistant Dean for the Jindal School's MBA programs. Take it away, Lisa.
Hey, you guys. Welcome back to yet another MBA GOAT podcast. We are here with Jack Liu, who was the class of 2019 and is currently a Senior Product Manager with Sabre.
Hey, Lisa.
So, Jack, start off by telling us what a Senior Product Manager does at Sabre and what product it is that you work on.
As a product manager at Sabre, I work on a product called property management software. So it's the operating software that hotel uses to conduct their daily businesses. Everything from inventory management, housekeeping, to accounting, to reporting to the entire chain. It does it all. So when you walk into a hotel, the hotel agent will look at the screen, and the screen is basically running our software. There are many competitors. We're one of the market entry product, sort of a problem child rising into a star. And my daily job involves dealing with ideation of feature all the way to execution, to delivery to the product, to the customer, and also communicating to the customer what's coming and gather their feedback, hearing the voice of the customer to direct the next round of enhancement.
We have a number of students who come in and generally aren't looking at product management as kind of an area of focus. They learn about it more here. And then their question is always, okay, so what is product management? Because we don't have necessarily a concentration in that. And, we explain it's kind of the person who knows that product and is taking that product from initializing it all the way through to getting it on market and monetizing. Can you tell us, internally what your definition is of product management? And from a student perspective, what does that mean for them?
Right. So every company does define the role of product management a little differently. It also depends on the product, where the life cycle is for that product. If it is a new product, then it's more creating the minimum viable product, creating the go-to-market strategy, finding the first customer and pushing it out, running beta phases of launching tests, and making sure at launch it is a pretty successful product. If it is a mature product, it's more focused on maintenance, enhancements, fixing defects, and maintaining customer relationship. Of course, capturing more customers, and doing market research is a common theme to make sure we understand what's going on in the market space, what our competitors are doing, what the customers demand. And I would say in a technical company, in a technology company whose product is more of a software, the role will focus a lot on the execution as well, right? You do not only write the requirements, you also make sure the requirements are understood across the organization, and you want to accept the end product and make sure they fit the vision.
Right. So I think when people think product management, a lot of times they think about widgets. So for instance, I'm a makeup company and we came up with a new type of mascara. So marketing is a big component of that. But it sounds like with software, a lot of it, because that widget is changing, right? You change it for every customer, is a little bit more of almost like a consulting role where, okay, so we've got that widget in your company already, but it's not working perfectly. Let's go in and identify the problem and figure out how to fix it.
Exactly. A lot of times you hear this ask from the customer, okay, we need a button. But without asking more questions, you don't know why, right? You have to kind of get to the bottom of this. Why do you need the button? What exactly is the purpose that you're trying to achieve? And then go from there, exactly as you said. It's like a consulting job that you're working with the customer for the betterment of the product.
going way back to when you were first looking at an MBA program, I want to touch on this because we have a lot of students in your situation. You are not someone who, just graduated, didn't have much work experience, or, didn't find that great job. You already had all those things. You were an engineer. You had a great job. You had little kids, very little at the time.
Right.
And you were really looking for an evening program, which is kind of the go-to for someone who really loves their job. A lot of times they don't want to give that up. And then started thinking about doing the full-time and ended up making the choice to leave your company. So talk about what made you make that choice from the evening cohort or any part-time program to actually jumping in fully into a full-time program.
So you definitely brought up some memory. My daughter at the time was 4 years old, and I have twin boys. They were 2. Very young ages, but as kids does to you, my kids do what my kids do to me is that they give me a lot of motivation. I stare at them, I look at them, I see probably I would improve myself a little more so that they can have a better future, and also in doing so, hopefully give them a better example to follow when they grow up. That's why I started looking, and MBA is certainly a good route out of the engineering job that I have. Not that it wasn't great; it was a great job, but it was a sort of a hybrid consulting job. That my role is to lead a small team and produce a process for telecom companies, and it has a lot of customer interfacing. It has a lot of managing of the process and asking questions, understanding what the customer's needs and wants are, and relaying that to the team. So I think that's almost as a that works almost as a preview of the product management job that I have, and I think that led me to pursue the MBA program, and I was looking at doing a evening program because it fits in my calendar, it fits in my schedule, right? During the day, I have my work and I have my kids, and at night I can come in and can finish the school in 2-3 years, right? No big deal. So when I come in for the MBA interview, I was asked the question, where do you want to see yourself in 2 to 3 years? And I gave it some thought, and I think the position I want to be will be some sort of either product management job or a strategy type of position. And I think that triggers the train of thought that if I stay in my current job and pursue this as an evening cohort, it will make my life a little more miserable because you have to deal with 2 things at the same time, serve 2 masters. And also, I cannot 100% fully focus on the MBA program. And I heard it's not just the study, but also the socialization. It's the training of thoughts. It's training of getting interviewed by your peers, by your class, by all the companies. So I think that's why I made the decision to go full-time.
And certainly, having you come into the program already knowing what you wanted to do, because so many students don't do that, made, I think, that decision a little bit easier.
A little bit easier, and I would confess that I do not fully know what I will become after the program. Nobody does, but I kind of have a rough idea.
Right, and I don't know that any of us know at any point what the future brings, right? I'm a couple decades older than you, and I still wonder what my next round will be. So, but I do know getting the right skills and having skills that are up to date are always going to position you better for whatever is next. Since you were talking about your kids, let's talk about them. When you were in the program, a lot of people think that an MBA program is all people who are 28 years old, they're single, or maybe engaged, kind of at that stage of life. But the truth is, our current class, we have someone as young as 23 maybe, and we have one person who I think is going to be turning 50 this year. And so it's really a wide range. So in your class, you having, having your 3 little kids, how many other people were also like you dealing with parenthood and kind of juggling a family as well as the MBA program?
Yeah, I would say it's a nice surprise. I came in the program, I looked at everybody, and I was not alone, right? There's Jeff, who had a baby, I think, the first month into the program.
Yeah.
And then we had, I think, total of 3 new babies for the duration of a year and a half. And there are people with multiple kids coming into the program as well. So I think I was definitely not alone. And together we managed the situation pretty well.
Yeah, I remember a few times where the solution to whatever problem of the day was to bring them up, and they'd be adding some life to the lounge.
Exactly. That's what I did during some of the final projects. I brought both Adam and Brody to the group discussion, and they were just in the background playing with iPad and running around. But we ended up bonding with the teammate a little more because the kids give you more things to look at and fun topics to discuss.
Well, and you talked about setting an example for them too, right? Mm-hmm. So what a better way to set an example is them to actually see that you're in school and what that looks like.
Right. I definitely paid a lot more attention with them in the background watching, and I think that's a motivator as well.
Yeah.
As you said.
This episode is brought to you by the UT Dallas MBA program, top-ranked nationally and in Texas. The UT Dallas MBA combines a robust core with 13 concentrations. You have an option to add a second master's degree, and your choices for that include 5 STEM-designated programs. The MBA program has full-time, part-time, online, and other formats. They give you flexibility to fit your MBA education into your busy schedule. The skills and training you will receive are what top employers are looking for. For more information, visit us online at jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.
So since leaving the program, that was just a couple of years ago. It was a rough couple of years because there were a couple of years in there that were COVID and everything was online. But during the time, you still figured out how to give back. You've been an ambassador in the program. Certainly anytime we ask you to come up and speak to students or do anything like that, you're here. So what has your connection been to your class and to the program since you've been out?
Yeah, I definitely feel that I've never left, and that sentiment is shared across my classmate as well. So during COVID, we organized a few offline small group meets, and we another benefit with kids is that you meet with other parents who's in the program as well. So you can meet at the playground or have a picnic, and then you can catch up while the kids play together. Yeah, it's definitely been a rough few years for sure. And you text message, you WhatsApp, you do whatever to catch up. And I would say the bonding between the classmates is definitely very strong. I find it's not hard to catch up. It's like old friends, right? You don't meet with each other for a long time, but when you do meet, you don't feel like you've been apart.
So you've gotten 2 degrees here, an engineering degree and an MBA, and you've had 2 careers, an engineer and a very typical MBA type career.
Right.
So for people who are out there that make that transition, talk about, obviously you have to get a different degree, but aside for that, there's a whole different way of thinking. For people who want to go from engineering to business, what would you tell those people in terms of, obviously not degree, but in what they need to really be aware of making that mindset change? Right,
Lisa. So as an engineer, my day-to-day was building a product. Now I'm a product manager. My day-to-day is to manage that product, to use marketing and use understanding of the product and the industry to make sure we deliver the right product to the customer. So I was on the how side of things. Now I'm on the why side of things. It's definitely a drastic change in mindset, and I was focused more on the details of execution. And now I see myself as more of a big picture thinker, and knowing that we're operating in unknown territory where not only the solution is unknown, but also the customer requirement a lot of times is unknown, right? We have to make a lot of discoveries before formulating a solution to execute for. So that's a big change. And for the engineer fellows out there, I might recommend my word of advice would be to avoid getting to the pigeonhole of solutioning, right? As an engineer, you are presented with a problem, and you immediately start formulating the solution. You see the solution from a mile away. Okay, that's got to be the solution for this problem. But as a business person, you first have to ask, you have to doubt the problem, right? You have to ask the right question. You have to go back and revisit the question and make sure we're asking the right question, we're solving the right problem. Is this the right problem to solve? So I think that's a big hump for me to get over with. I still see myself getting into that trap sometimes, but I was able to get better at hopping out of it.
You know, that's so interesting. You remind me of a panel we had years ago. I was taking students to France, and we had some folks who were French who were here working in the United States on international teams. One was with Galderma, one was with Essilor. And one man said, and I really remember this statement because when I went there, I could really see this pan out, that in America, people spend 80% of their time on the solution and only 20% of the time on the problem. And in France, it's reversed, where they spend 80% of their time on the problem and 20% on the solution. So it's interesting that you kind of brought up that exact point. And I do see how, that would be a mindset switch, which is probably facilitated very well by cases. I mean, you did a lot of case studies, and I think that there are certain mindsets who come into the program, and the problem with a typical Harvard case in a class is they're waiting for what the answer is. But very often, those cases don't have any answer. It's all about understanding the situation, and there might be 5 or 6 or 10 or 20 solutions you could come up with that would all be justifiable. Right.
And I can definitely resonate with that. I've been recalling a case that a classmate shared in class. It's about a big airline trying to eliminate a route to China. And he shared it in class. I benefited a lot. And, the case goes in a route where you can calculate the costs and the revenue of that route. But in the end, he told me, hey, Jack, you're solving it wrong, right? You're not seeing the big picture. You should ask the question first, why are they running this route to China in the first place? There's something that's bigger than money here. And that dawned on me that, my engineering mindset is at work again. I went into calculation without asking why, without asking the business side of things. And it turns out the airline may not run every route for the sake of money. They are retaining a lot of larger customers, and they want a big network that services all their customers' needs. So in that case, the route is losing money, but they kept it because it expands the network, and that allows them to capture the corporate customers.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions on our lightning round.
Right.
Don't overthink it. Just whatever comes to mind. I'll start with an easy one. Who is your favorite professor?
My favorite professor is definitely Larry Redlinger. He taught us the class of contemporary business issue together with Professor Charles. And I remember after a class, I approached him and asked him, Professor, how do you think I can resist falling asleep in my career? I have this tendency to getting the comfort zone in my job and not venture out, right? And just doing the day-to-day things without thinking more. And I see myself in the future doing that again. So how do you prevent that from happening? I remember him staring at me vigorously and said, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Jack, never drink the Kool-Aid. I still remember it to this date. And I remember it. I remind myself every now and then.
What skill do you specifically remember getting in a class that you use on a pretty regular basis now?
There are definitely a few. It's hard to mention one, but if I have to, it's to focus on the value to the customer I got from the business operations class. In my day-to-day job as a product manager, we always focus on prioritizing our internal activities, sometimes projects, sometimes defects, sometimes just, admin chores to our finite days, right? And it helps me to think, does this have any customer value, right? If we're not delivering value to the customer, why are we doing this at all? That's definitely a skill that I apply on a daily basis.
Good. What is your funnest or funniest moment you remember from the program?
I think the funniest moment would be seeing cake in the face thrown to the program director. We were doing a fundraiser at the time. We're trying to get enough money to buy the program couches.
Yeah, that was a gift. That was a gift you gave on your way out.
That was the gift from the entire cohort, yes. And, we were very proud of achieving the milestone of the sum that we want to achieve. And, Joanna was graceful enough to put herself as the ultimate reward. If we can hit this amount, we get to throw a cake at her face, and we did.
I think we still have pictures of that. And what is your one thing that if you could do it all over again that you would do that maybe you didn't have time for or you somehow missed?
I would definitely say get to know everybody more. It is very easy to get lost once the grind starts. Once the class begins, you get lost in the projects, the different subjects, and especially towards the end of the second semester was definitely pretty heavy, and you just lost focus on the other aspects of this program's offering, including the great cohort that we are so fortunate to be part of. So if I were to do it again, I would spend more time with my cohort, make sure I get to know them more.
Well, we had fun with your class. Your class is still super active. It was such a great bunch. And so we'll see you at the next upcoming event. So hopefully your whole class will come and we can all reconnect.
That's a great point, Lisa. Looking forward to it.
We are so glad you could join us today and hear about the journey of yet another MBA GOAT. For me, my MBA was truly transitional, as it is for so many of our students. If you're wondering where an MBA can take you, reach out to us and let's talk about you. Email us at mba@utdallas.edu and feel free to ask for me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of yet another MBA GOAT podcast. Join us online at mbagoat.com to find episode notes, links, and more. Be sure to subscribe to yet another MBA GOAT podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review. That will help spread the word about the podcast and the Jindal School's MBA programs. To learn more about the Jindal School's MBA programs, go to jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.